For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Livieri. I'm a #1 international best-selling author, former executive director, creator of the Impact Method, and I love helping people like you, nonprofit leaders, make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed. And one of the things that can help you do that are leveraging online tools to help you coordinate and collaborate. Those of you who've worked with me a little know that I'm pretty tech savvy, and I like to help people make simple systems to help them do more with less, get more done without doing more. And I think that online document collaboration is something that is a great way to do this. And I have definitely learned some things over the years in how to do it and how not to do it. And so today I'm going to be sharing 5 tips for what you should do, along with some info on probably things to avoid. And I'm mostly going to use the Google ecosystem as my reference. And here's why. One, it is the one that I use, so I have access to it, and I'm going to give you demos of how I do it. 2 is, I think one of, as nonprofits, you can use both Google and Microsoft 365 for free. Although recently I learned I think there might be a $5 per user fee for Microsoft 365. Google is 100% free for nonprofits. And using Google, there's some differences between the two. Often people have a comfort level with Microsoft because that's what they were using before they went to the cloud. Google kind of developed in a different way, but Google, when it comes to collaboration in the cloud, I think Google is beating Microsoft still every day of the year. I'm sure that will change. Microsoft, I'm sure, knows that it needs to step up its collaboration game. But that is why I use Google, and it is why I basically recommend that if collaboration is one of your primary needs, that you consider using Google. That being said, many of the tips I have for you today have equivalent equivalent ways of implementing them in Microsoft 365, where I'm not as familiar, but you can use them across platforms for sure. So let's go into our first tip here. Don't over folder. So when you move things into the cloud, or even just on your computer, your digital folders are really different than your physical folders in your file cabinet. But they look like folders, and we tend to start using them the same way, and that's a mistake. Let me just peel the layers back on this onion a little more. So in a physical folder, we need different folders to help categorize our papers so that we can find them more easily. In a digital folder system, we now have search functionality, which is very, very powerful. So we don't really need our folders to provide as much categorization. And the more you categorize things into folders, something bad starts to happen. What starts to happen is your documents become undiscoverable. In our file cabinet, we can kind of flip through the papers and kind of happen upon things. But in the digital space, unless we open that folder, and we can only really open one at a time, we can't just do a quick flip through, things can get hidden, and you might not realize that you have resources already there that you could be using. So we want to not over folder. So unlike paper folders, and you might have this already on your computer, you want broad stroke categories, and otherwise, you're going to write your titles of your documents so that you can find things. And that's one of my other tips, which I'm going to go into in just a minute. How to title things. So you can have a very descriptive title, and I have a sample here. I'm going to show you. This is Google Drive. This is my Google Drive. I made a demo folder for you today. And I'll show you in my demo folder, I've got 2 broad categories here: tax and business files, and communications. And communications is going to have all the templates and stuff I need, material for the website, material for fundraising letters, for grant applications, because all those things are going to be sharing the same kind of language again and again, and you want that information discoverable. What you put in a grant application is really relevant to what you might put on your website in the future, or vice versa. So here, when it comes to titling a document, and I'll open it up. I actually had it open already here. I have titled it with the word grant so that whenever I search for grant, it will come up. Another way you can do things, and I've also called this one my template, right? So you can get really descriptive and you can have pretty long names in here. You can also have an informal tagging system by using a bracket. So I could bracket and say that this is has to do with fundraising. So everything that was fundraising specific, I could have a naming protocol where I add something in a bracket to help me find it. Otherwise, things around dates are all going to be searchable. So you can certainly organize your documents at any point, reorganize them by when they were created or when they were last changed. So that is about naming, right? So what you used to use categories for in folders, you're now going to just embed that kind of information in the name. Now, different systems will be different, but in Google, when you search, and I'll show you the search bar, when you search here, it will be able to search your names of your documents as well as the content. So this search is super, super powerful. So even if you don't make the name easy to pop up in the search, you'll still probably find what you're looking for when you use this search bar. Let's go on to the next tip. And while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and send you all this link in the chat. And if you do me a favor, you can go ahead and click on that link. So how do you want to use your folders, right? I've told you not to use too many folders. And here's what I want you to use your folders for. I want you to use your folders for managing permissions rather than categorizing your information. So let me go back to my demo folder here. So this folder, I would give people access to this folder who are probably people who are qualified to see sensitive information, my tax returns, employment agreements, things like that. And I might have subfolders in here if I want to have some people have access to some of the information, but not all of the information. Communications, I probably want to allow a lot of people to have the ability to access this folder. So instead of categorizing, broad strokes for categories, and otherwise think of how you're going to have your subfolders relate to permissions. After that, what I can tell you is we're going to go in and look at how to manage document permissions inside your document. So a folder can have permissions as well as an individual document. But if you manage all your permissions by document, it will get overwhelming, which is why I'm recommending you do it by the folder. If you're using Google, you'll see there's a little info button here. So you can see in that folder who it's shared with. I just created this. It's not shared with anybody. Some basic information about it. You could add a description. It'll also show you the activity in that folder, right? I have used this when there were questions about who last went into a document and what was changed. That is here on the folder level, and it's also available on the individual file level. So this is information you're not getting with your paper documents, but you can get with your digital documents. So let's go ahead into my grant application template. Everybody take a moment to click on the link I just put in the chat, and we're going to talk about learning to use the suggestions feature. Learning to use the suggestions feature. So there's a couple things to know about this. Go ahead and click on the link in the chat. the link isn't showing. Because I only sent it to other panelists. That's why. Here we go. There's the link. Now you should see the link. Go ahead and click on it. How do I know nobody clicked on it? Because I will see you all start to appear up here. So go ahead and click on that link. You should not even need, and I'll tell you how I generated that link. Hopefully you're seeing it now. Are you seeing the link now? Are you seeing the link? So the way I created that link was I went up to share, and I got a link that anyone, wait, I might have done it wrong. Anybody, I did do it wrong. So you're all going to have trouble using it. So great learning moment, right? So you don't need access because I'm going to change the permission. So what I'm going to do, because I want to make anybody with the link have the ability to be a commenter, right? I could make you all editors, but I want to make you commenters. That's going to help you, help me, but it's not going to give you full edit permission. Okay, now you should all be coming in. See, on my screen up here, you are popping in. I can see you. Great. So what's awesome is our last tip is if you get on the editor, the commenter setting, you can hop on a Zoom call with me, but we can all be editing at the same time and talking. And this is really great. Great. See, everybody's in here. So go ahead and type something. For myself, and another thing you can do with your internal team is I'm going to go from editing to suggesting right up here. So go ahead, everybody type in. If you were part of my company account, I would see your names rather than anonymous. Great. I've pulled up a sample. We're going to use a grant example here. I've got this proposed budget template. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it in here. There we go. Excellent. So we're seeing everything in different colors that is in here. So what you're writing, and then what's giving me control is now if I'm the master editor of this document, I can say, oh, Jennifer says I need to use more data. I like that comment. So I'm going to approve. I'm going to approve, and this is becoming part of the document. I'm going to anonymous. Hello. We're not going to say that. Somebody else added a paragraph. That's great. Awesome. Now, would someone go ahead into the proposed budget section and just make some edits in there? It doesn't matter what for this purpose. You can go in. Excellent. Change some things. So see, I can see what you're changing, and it's really easy to have a conversation about what you're suggesting. And anybody can write something in. It's not going to mess up the document because we're going to approve or reject before we confirm. So I could come in here and say, actually, this should be 12,000. And so you can really see the flow. And now we can collaborate in live time like this if we're on a call, or we can collaborate asynchronously. So we can each go into the document when is a good time for us. That's especially good if you have board members or volunteers collaborating on something because their schedules don't always sync up if they're not part of the same work team. So I'll go ahead and approve these. So 2 ways you can do this is one is you can share the document or share the whole folder ideally, right, with everybody who needs to work on it. And you can set permissions. You can give everybody a link, even if they're not inside your organization, or you can just add people here. I'll add the famous Rachel. And if I make her an editor, she can do anything, or I can make her a commenter, and then the suggesting type activity is the maximum she can do. If it's somebody who's close in your team, I recommend you make them an editor, but then you train everybody to, when you're working collaboratively, that you change over here in the document from suggesting to, from editing, which is the default, to suggesting. One confusing thing is suggesting and that commenter only level of permission basically are the exact same thing. Excellent. So we have our document here. We do have more information. See, this is telling me last edit was seconds ago. So if another tip when you're collaborating in this way is you can actually bring up older versions of your document. So if somebody did go in, you're like, oh man, what we had was way better, but we deleted it, you can recover it. So that's another great collaborative kind of version tracking. So the alternative to this that this is replacing is that where you send somebody a file in an email and they edit it and they send it back. You now have one master document and you don't have to worry about version control when you do it this way. So that was my last tip. Hop on a Zoom call but all open the document together and start working on it together. That's 15 minutes and 5 tips. I hope this has been helpful for all of you with me live. Stick around. I'm going to answer your questions for those of you on the recording. See you next time and hope that you're able to join in person soon.